Hey, Taylor Ellwood here with Magical Experiments Podcast, and I have one of my absolute favorite sorceresses slash magicians in the whole wide universe here with me again, Alison Chicosky. Alison, introduce yourself. Tell us where we can find you on the web.
Hey, Taylor. As you know, my name is Alison Chicosky. I am the proprietor of Practical Occult, which you can find at www.practicaloccult.com. And I sell magic items that draw from various grimoires and magic throughout the ages. Everything I make is tested. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm writing or speaking at events about the magic that I do.
Yes, and I know all of that very well myself because I actually have a lot of your products and in fact bought some recently, both for myself and my magical partners. So we're going to talk about that in a bit. But before we do that, lately, Alison, there's been some interesting controversy going on with you. What is the deal with these middle-aged white male magicians who feel so threatened by you? And I mean, I'm talking about Aaron Leach and Nick Farrell. They're just having like this major tantrums about you. What is going on with that?
Yeah, it's really fascinating to watch it. It's very one-sided in that they're doing writing a lot of blogs, posting. They're really riled up about some of my work, but I'm not really responding. I'm very, very busy, and in fact, every time this happens, I have an enormous sales spike. So then I'm extra busy trying to handle the orders and get things out and deal with the customer service. So regarding Aaron Leach, we had a disagreement about something that we both do professionally. We disagreed about how much astrology needs to go into a particular practice.
Mm.
Some folks are on my side, some folks are on his side, but at the end of the day, there's no one right way to do magic. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And in a similar fashion, this box that I've recently come out with that's based on a spell from the Greek magical papyri. It's really riled up one of my detractors, and he's written quite a bit about it. Um, Talking about how he believes it works. But I did notice that if you compare the multiple blogs about it, he's added extra spells to his version, which is great. It looks like in his case, he's also added the opening of the mouth ritual, which is an Egyptian ritual that would enliven an object or bring a spirit into something. And he added that spell, which is something that I don't add in my work. So I think that some of his criticism about how his is working differently than mine probably hinge on the fact that he also did another additional extra spell that caused it to work differently.
Well, I mean,
And
there you go. Different, like you said earlier, different people have different approaches to magic. I don't see what the
right,
big deal is. I don't get it.
right, and I'm sure that he's getting great results with whatever he's doing. You know, like you know, like I said, there's not just one way to do magic, but especially when you talk about the Greek magical papyri, which is the text that I'm working out of. Um, uh, if you are familiar with them, you can see that there's a lot of different variations on similar things. So people will take almost the same spell and use it more than one way, or the same verbiage from a spell and leverage it in several different spells, or things like that. So, you know, even thousands of years ago, 2,000 years ago, there wasn't just one way to do this. Everyone who is a practitioner tries to work with things and adopt their own style and kind of fiddles around with it until they get something that works great for them, right? So in these cases, I start out trying to do the spell as accurately as possible. And then play with it a little bit until I get something that really works for me.
Mm-hmm. And that makes sense. I mean, that's how I approach magic.
Right.
I think that's the basis of magical experimentation. Like first you do it as it is,
Mhm.
and then and you figure out, okay, like here's the baseline, and then you start to fiddle with things and you figure stuff out. And I mean, I've noticed that in general, like there is no one way approach. I think what I always dislike is when people take the one way approach. Like my way is the only way. And it's
Right.
like, okay, well, that's not necessarily true. Different strokes for different people. I mean, I can personally attest to the efficacy of your magical work. I have been your customer since the beginning, I think, of your
Sure.
business. And I've bought stuff not just for me, but for my magical partner. And she has also felt like it's been, you know, really solid work. And she's used it, for things for herself. So I mean, clearly it works. And I think it's kind of sad and pathetic on the part of these two to be doing this. You're handling like a queen. I'm just
Thank
going to
you
say
so
that
much.
right now with such dignity and grace. And it doesn't surprise me that you're seeing a spike. I mean, sadly, let's just be honest here. Controversy does help sales. I mean, I know that because back in
Right.
the day when I wrote controversial books like Pop Culture Magic, and everyone, got their panties in a twist about it, it sold more copies. But that shouldn't be the reason it sells. It should sell because
No.
it's something that speaks to somebody. But I'm hoping that people who get your products and services, if anything, that it seems like they're coming away and they're just like, wow, this has really produced solid results. And I know for me, your magical artifacts have always produced solid results. And so, I mean, you've always got my seal of approval, and I don't give my seal of approval out to just anybody. I mean, anyone who knows me knows I'm fairly critical, albeit not in the way that I'm seeing here from these two. Like, this is just over the top criticism. It's like, okay, guys, come on, what are you really feeling threatened by? I mean, my personal opinion on this is just that they're feeling threatened because you're a woman. Because heavens forbid the male magician be challenged and discover that, oh my gosh, women actually have something to say.
Yeah, I've seen some specific verbiage in some of the comments that both of them have posted where they talk about charlatans that come out of nowhere and they didn't go through a tradition, and they, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like that's maybe a little bit of what's going on there, because both of the people criticizing me are part of a magical order that has a hierarchy. So it's the type of thing where you have to do your time, right? You get in at the lowest rung of the ladder, and then you spend years training and climbing up until you gain the respect of people, and these pieces of paper that say that you've achieved whatever. And then people respect you because you've got that piece of paper and you've done your time. So I think a little bit of this is just that I kind of hopped the gate, and I didn't come through those magical orders, and I didn't do things the same way as these people, right? And so I found some things I was interested in, and I've done a lot of like personal study, but you know not really a joiner.
Okay, but like I'm sorry, but I've never been through any magical order. I've been practicing for about 30 years now.
Mhm.
I never joined a magical order or anything like that, and it hasn't stopped the effectiveness of my magical work. Granted, I mean, I've gone off in wildly different directions than what you and those two have done. I mean, but at the same time, I find it interesting. I'm circling around and kind of coming towards some of this stuff. Some of that's just been my own interest. Some of it has recently been influenced by my magical partner because of some of the things that she does, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool, and I've missed out on something fundamental here, and she's helped me see that. So I think it's kind of it's just kind of silly. Like, okay, yeah, so what? You didn't join a magical order and get the little paper. I mean, you've done the work, you've done the research. The thing is I mean, just speaking from my own little soapbox here for the moment, if you're going out there and you're doing the research and work and you have the results, that's all that should matter at the end of the day. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's how I feel too. You know, I've also heard criticism about, you know, I haven't published any books yet. What have I contributed to the community? And, you know, I have to just smile a little bit because I feel like there's more to supporting the community than writing books. Not to say that writing books aren't great. You know, I have several of your books. Um, my little light went off here.
Yeah, you've got a couple of my books. I mean, I've only written over 40 of them. I don't know if we're going to use book writing as the thing here. Then heck, I should be like king of the freaking hill here. You know,
I know.
I
I hear that writing books is actually superior to doing the things that you're writing about. That's what I hear. Right?
I completely disagree with that. Okay, first of all,
no, I do too. I'm just it's been
know.
part of the criticism that's come up, and it's really surreal.
That's ridiculous. I mean, I've only known you for a few years now, but I can say I have seen the way that you contribute to the community loud and clear. I mean, you are doing revolutionary work that is changing the way people think about magic, practice magic, but not just that, it's the way you show up in the community in general. You've helped people out. You know, if we're going to look at things, we should look at the deeds of people, not how many books they've written. I mean, I've written a lot of books. And I mean, I've done all the work for those books. I want to be very clear. It's not like I'm just sitting here and writing them and I've never done the work. I have done the work. And I do think you have to do the work if you're going to write a book. But writing a book is not how you establish authority. It's a form of authority. But it's no different than creating a pentacle like this, which is one of the pentacles you've created, by the way, for people who are watching this. It's no different than that. I mean, that's a form of authority right there too. So I don't get it because, you know, you're making this amazing stuff. You've done lots of stuff. You're well known in the community locally and internationally at this point. And I don't think you writing, I mean, hey, I look forward to when you write your book or books and I'll definitely pick them up. But I don't think that whether you've written a book or not indicates that you're an authority. I just think it's a form of authority. The authority comes from the work that you've done and how it shows up. And the fact that multiple people can attest to that speaks more loudly than any number of books you could have written. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I do try to let my customers speak for me, which is why I've enabled reviews on my site. So I try to just, you know, I feel like it's more honest to just let them talk about the results they've gotten than for me to try to, you know, boost my reputation by talking about my own results.
Well, Allison, yeah, I will just say that as one of those customers who has written testimonials and will undoubtedly write testimonials again, your magic works. I love everything that you do. I respect you from just like the deepest level of respect. And I'll just say, you know, right now, I don't know if people have noticed that lately, the last like 5 or 6 podcast interviews have all been female women magicians. Well, Allison is one of the reasons that's happening, because I'm just going to speak to this. There's a lot of misogyny in the occult community here. And this thing with Aaron and Nick, I'm calling it out. That's exactly what it is. I don't care. They can dress it up any way they want. At the bottom, they're feeling threatened. And, you know, I don't think it's right. I think it's absolutely wrong and incorrect. And one of the reasons why I'm doing these interviews is because I want to highlight the work that women magicians and occultists are doing in the community, because we need to give voice to that more, you know. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. This is actually really just acknowledging you, because I have seen some of the challenges that you've gone through. And, you know, I've tried to be an ally to you, and hopefully I've been a good one. But you know, I just think in general, we need to change this current, and this is the time to do it. And that's one of the reasons that, at least for the foreseeable future, most of the interviews on this show are going to be with women occultists, because that's what we need. We need to see a balancing here. That's
much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, again, this isn't about me. This is about you. Right. So speaking of which, let's get back to you. So, let's talk first. I want to kind of go in chronological order here. Let's talk first about your pentacles. I have 5 of them. I've got 3 of them in front of me right now. But I want to talk a bit about what your thought process was developing these. And I'm just going to show these off real quick. I mean, it's hard to see with a camera, but I want people to see, like, here is this one. This is the second of the moon, correct?
First of the moon.
First of the moon. Yeah. See, I knew that, but and then we've got this lovely Jupiterian one. You can barely kind of see it. I'm sorry, folks.
It's
but
okay.
And then we have this lovely solar one as well. And then I've also got one for Mars and I've got one for Mercury. And I will just say they all work extremely well. I use them for solo stuff, but I also use them in tandem with each other in order to get some great results. Now, enough about me talking about them. Let's hear you talk about them. Tell us a bit about your creation process, your thought process. What made you decide to create these pentacles in the first place?
So I've actually been making them for much longer than I've been professionally making them. I originally started making them because I heard they worked really well, and I had needs that I needed met, and I wanted something that would do that. So the first pentacle I made was a health pentacle for someone very close to me that was unwell. And I was kind of desperate to make them well. So I talked to some friends who are very, very competent, and they gave me some advice. And I went with the Solomonic Pinnacle, and that was the first one I made. And then once I realized that they were so useful, and it was just like an ongoing magic that I could give to people, and it would just keep helping them. I just started making them as presents for everyone I knew who needed help. So I was making them and giving them out as gifts for about a year, and then I lost my job. I had a professional career in tech and ops, working at a corporation. They had massive layoffs, and after years of dodging the layoffs, that time I did not.
The bullet finally got you.
Yeah, so I was putting in resumes to jobs that I didn't want, where I'd have to put on a suit and get on a train and go to another city and sit at a cubicle for like maybe 9 hours a day. And I was I was doing it, and I was sending those resumes and applications off, but everyone I sent, I just kind of cringed a little bit, like, I really don't want to do this. And then friends of mine who knew that I made pentacles started asking if they could buy them. So I was like, wait, is this a thing that people would want to buy from me? Wow. So I did that. I started selling them to my friends, and the next thing you know, I had a pentacle business. And even though I had been making items from the Greek magical papyri for many more years than pentacles, I wanted to start off my business with the Solomonic Pentacles because they're more well known, right? So people were already familiar with them in occult circles. So I could just say, hey, here's the second of Jupiter from the Key of Solomon, and then people would know what that meant. Whereas with the Greek magical papyri stuff, it's more obscure, and I almost have to explain the whole spell and what it does. So I went for a long time with just the pentacles before I started incorporating other things into my store. But now that I've got it rolling, I'm coming out with new products all the time now, both pentacles and magic of antiquity, which I'm really proud of, because the product development that goes into this stuff sometimes takes years. And then after I have the first prototype, it takes months to a year to test it to make sure that I've got the quality that I want, because I don't want people to get something that they're like, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. I want it to be like, wow. I want the wow factor in all of my stuff.
Well, you definitely have the wow factor. I mean, I'm just going to speak briefly to some of the things that I've used your pentacles for, if that's all right.
Sure.
Um, I've used the Jupiterian pentacle for wealth magic, and that's actually helped me get more book sales. It's helped with a couple of other things. I've used it in tandem with a couple magical artifacts of my own. I have these these magnets that I hang upside down, and the metal balls coming down from them, and it's basically a form of attraction magic using magnetism and gravity as elemental energies. But I've used the Pinnacle, and what I do is I actually touch the Pinnacle to those magnets to kind of charge it with Jupiterian energy so that it enhances it. I've used the Moon Pentacle to actually unlock opportunities for me and open people's minds and things like that, which is a little bit different from what it's intended to be used for. I know it was supposed to be used to unlock doors, but I thought, if there was a way to tinker with this in some form or manner, I'm going to. And I basically took it and started working with it and playing with it, and then doing things like that. And then I've used the Mercury Pentacle sometimes to find unusual opportunities. Lately, I've been using it to help me work on my communication and just kind of communicating better, because I've found some challenges that I need to work on in regards to that. I mean, these things happen, and that's kind of been one of the things that I started applying that toward my communication. And then I've got your the Mars Pinnacle for health, and I haven't had to use it yet, but it's kind of a just in caser, because you just never know. And then I have the Solar Pentacle, and I've used the Solar Pentacle really to kind of just help me stand out and shine more, to help draw some awareness to the work that I'm doing. And I've definitely seen that. So, I mean, to anyone out there, I would say these pentacles work. Oh, wait, I also have a Venus Pinnacle. Venus Pinnacle. Ooh, I knew I had another one.
Yes.
I have that up on the wall in my bedroom, right
Nice.
beside my love painting. And it's actually, I've just started recently working with Aphrodite. Dedicated myself to working with her. So, that Venus Pinnacle is actually going to go when I move to the new home that I'm in the process of buying, and hopefully will be in by the time this interview airs. I will have that as part of the altar as well. So those are all things that I'm working with your Pinnacles, and it's just been absolutely phenomenal. It's gotten me some great results.
Thanks so much. You said something that I really wanted to go into a little more detail about. You talked about how you're using the first of the moon in maybe a different way than it's supposed to be used. But I do want to point out that a lot of these descriptions in the grimoires that I'm working from are really vague.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we sometimes don't know all of the things they do. And sometimes I will have been working with a specific pentacle for years in one way, and someone will say, "Oh yeah, I use it to do this other thing," and I'll be like, "Really? I did not think about using it that way." So I think that there's definitely a lot of value in talking about results and the way that we're getting those results, because they inspire us. These things are more than what they say. There's one pentacle that I've been testing recently. It says it's for honor and dignities. Well, that's really vague. Like, what does that mean? So, I had to actually call up the spirits and say, like, hey, it also says honor and dignity in like this other pentacle. What's the difference? So we had to have a talk about that. And it turns out that in that case, it's a pentacle of reputation. It says it will protect your reputation and keep it as good as gold. So
well, that clearly is happening.
yeah, I've had that for months now, and it seems to be doing its job.
Yeah. I actually remember telling you too, when I got the first couple Pinnacles, that I actually used them as dials. Like, I would adjust them as frequencies. Like, I'd be like, all right, I need a little more Jupiter here. And you're like, that's so cool. And it's like, well, why not? So I mean, that's the thing. Like, these things they're open to experimentation and work. You're exactly right. And that's one of the reasons I love working with them.
Right. They're powered by spirits. All of these pentacles have spirits that work for the folks that own the pentacles, and then they can do a huge variety of things that are along the lines of their nature. So, for example, even though you have the Mars health, you could probably petition it to protect you, because those spirits of Mars are bodyguards. So in the case of the Mars health, they're going to attack any pathogens or, try to fight for your health, just the same way that they would fight to defend you if they were bodyguards, and someone was attacking you. So it's, but then again, you wouldn't ask a spirit of Mars to help you in your court case if you had one, because that's not their nature.
Right. Might prove to be counterproductive. Now, I have on my wrist a bracelet, and it's actually the 4 pentacles of Jupiter. And this is something else that you made. And I actually I bought this bracelet twice. I bought it once from my magical partner because I thought she would love it, and she does, and she wears it and all the time. And then I got it for me afterwards. This was like, this looks so cool, and I could feel the energies emanating off of it. So let's talk a little bit about that, because this is where you switched from just doing pentacles to turning it into jewelry.
Yeah, so I do want to make more jewelry, and I'm getting better as a jeweler, and working with other folks that make jewelry, and do machining, and my friend from Raven's Own, my friend Rebecca, who does chainmail. I worked with her to make that bracelet. She designed the chainmail connectors, and then she partially assembles them and then ships them to me. And then I just link the things all up to get the finished product. But where that's coming from is I personally have so many pentacles, just lots more pentacles than I offer in my store, by a lot. And unfortunately, I only have one neck. So, I'll want to go out. Right?
Work on that, Alison. You got to do a spell to grow multiple necks here. I mean, come on, right? I'm sure you could figure that one out.
Right. There's only one of me, and I've only got one neck, unfortunately. So I wanted to be able to, have more pentacles, like wear more pentacles at once, and think about how that would work. And the first one I came out with was the Mars bracelet. And when I came out with that bracelet, I wasn't sure if there was going to be civil unrest in the United States. Like that was the period of time. There was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of police brutality. Our president at the time was extremely unpopular and pushing a lot of really unpopular policies. And it really just looked like fighting was going to break out in the streets at any moment. So I wanted to have something that I would wear into battle, right? Like I wanted my Wonder Woman bracelets, like I wanted Amazon bracelets. So that was the first one, and that's a simple cuff bracelet design. So it's just a bent piece of metal. Mm-hmm. But then when I went to do the Jupiter bracelets, and I tried to do them as a cuff bracelet, like just a bent piece of metal that fits around your wrist, they failed quality control. So I had an entire first batch of those, and because it's a pewter alloy, it was too brittle after it was bent, and the fracture, keeping, how you bend a bracelet to put it on a little bit. If you keep doing that, it would snap.
Oh, so, yeah, that's not good. That could create some real problems.
Right. So I don't want people to, have these things that they've, paid good money for and should keep for the rest of their lives. And I don't want to have them break. So I scrapped all of that. And then it set me back months, where I tried to find another solution that wouldn't break. And the bracelet that you're wearing now was that solution, where I was able to find these individual pewter links and then connect them with chainmail. So that's got the flexibility, and the pewter itself isn't bending, so it's never gonna break. If the chain links were to break, they could just be replaced or tightened or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't have it with me, but I did buy the Mars bracelet as well. I got that for my magical partner, and again, that is really, it is a different thing, you know. Yeah, there you go. But
Yeah,
it
this one
looks
isn't consecrated. This is just sitting
right.
around in my to-do list, but you know, simple cuff, just a bent metal.
Yeah, but that worked really well. And then, but yeah, I mean, I can, and again, I mean, since I've gotten this, I wear, I don't wear it every day, but I wear it on the days that it feels right. And it was interesting. Recently I had again decided to go and, you know, buy a house. And I was doing this, I'd been looking for a few weeks, nothing I found was really working. And then one day I got this intuition, and I wore this to it. And like, here's the thing, I picked out a few houses. The first house I went to, I fell in love with, and it's just like, it's perfect for me. It's got the, and it's interesting because it has a little bit of work that it needs done on it, but for the price that it's going at and everything else, compared to most of the other houses that I've seen around that price, they usually have a lot more work from what I can tell. So I was like, okay, this is good. And it's coming together nicely. So I think, you know, part of it was having this on and just kind of like going to there and just tapping into that Jupiterian energy. But I've also found it helpful just in general, like when I'm going out driving, because of course it's not just wealth, it's also protection and health. So, you know, there's other things going on there. And I like that kind of fusion of all of those energies being worked with, Jupiterian wise. So, I mean, great work. And same for the Mars bracelet. I mean, I felt the potency of it. You know, I've held it in my hands and I'm like, wow, this is really potent. I wouldn't want to mess with somebody wearing this. So, well, and then by now, this gift will have been unwrapped, but by the time this airs, but it hasn't been unwrapped yet. But I got the Hecate mirror. So let's talk a little bit about that and how you came up with that. I read the papers and they were really fascinating.
Yeah, so that Hecate mirror is loosely based off of a set of 3 triangular bases that were Roman era artifacts that people found. Um, and they're the 3 bases are very similar, but slightly different. So I went with the one from Sardis, which is less known than the one from Pergamon, but also easier to engrave. So I went with the one that had less stuff on it and it was easier to read. But I do want to come up with the variation of the second version at some point. So these triangular bases originally were not mirrors. They were just you know, triangles with these engravings on them, and they had a just like a little hole and a stand. So they didn't know if it was supposed to lay flat and have a statue on it, or maybe a scrying device, or something. Like, really, we're just guessing, because they were found out of context. You know, they were found in the equivalent of like a garbage heap when they were, you know, doing the excavations. So, you know, they weren't like found in a temple. So we don't have any context for that. But you know, it's something that I've been looking at for years, and I really, really wanted to experiment with it and play with it. And then after I had been in business for long enough that I had partnered with a manufacturer, which would be Industrial Magic, I was able to work with Industrial Magic to get them to basically fabricate the triangles for me. You know, cut out the copper and the steel, and make everything coated so that it doesn't rust, and that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, so I to come up with that, I looked at the archaeological research. I compared the 3 different ones that we have from antiquity, you know, and then I made one, and then I worked with Hecate to consecrate it, and then I made a couple others, and I sent them off to friends, some of whom have a long-standing practice already with Hecate. and some of whom did not, to just see, what that would be like. I also tested the mirror with someone who had never seen a spirit before. They had, no practice with Hecate at all, and they were also able to see a ghost in it. So, I that's a thing that I like to do. I like to test things with both experienced practitioners, but also people that don't have experience, because I want my items to open a door to magic for people. I don't want them to have to already have it to be able to partake of my stuff. And that's the vast majority of folks out there, um, seem to be selling magical tools where if you yourself are a magician, it would help you. Um, but that's kind of not my business model. I just want things that are practical and helpful for people in their daily lives.
That makes sense. And I mean, I would say that really, I mean, the nice thing about these magical artifacts is that they basically do end up working, whether or not, like, and you don't even have to be very familiar with it. Like, I mean, some of the stuff that I've picked up, I wasn't familiar with it at the beginning. I mean, I've done a lot of magic work, don't get me wrong, but I mean, as you and I would both agree, I've kind of gone in wildly different directions than most people have.
Right, right.
And so, but I found that this has worked really well. And if anything, I found that it's actually meshed into my magical work quite nicely. I mean, I've been doing a lot of space-time magic work in the last half year to kind of just pull some different possibilities together and had things come together quite nicely. But I found that your work has really meshed well with that. So, well, now we have the controversial item that we're going to show. I actually got two of these because you sold out like your first round, and I bought two
I
of them.
did.
So I bought 1/3 of the available product. One was
You
for me and one was for my magical partner. And here it is, folks. Here is the item in question. Here is the thing that has caused so much controversy. And inside, it's got the papyrus. I think this is absolutely beautiful and exquisite. I love it. I'm like so happy to have it and so thrilled that you made it. I just want to tell you that. And I mean, I'm holding it right now and I'm just like, and I can't wait to work with it. I actually have a question or two for you about it, but I want to hear about your creation process for it first.
Yes. So that is based on a particular spell from the Greek magical papyri, which I have forgotten the number of off the top of my head, but it's in the product listing. It's in the Greek magical papyri, it is mislabeled as the binding love spell of Astraxukos. However, it's not a love spell at all. It's a Cartesian, which is a request for divine favor. So there's the spell starts off with, come to me, Hermes. So you're asking Hermes to come to you, and then there's a lot of identification where you say, I know your herbs, I know your plants, I know your names, I know your city. So there's a lot of different ways that it calls on Hermes in the spell, and it asks for favor, gold, silver, for people to give you gifts, for you to have beauty of face and form. It's basically just all of the good stuff. It's just a huge litany of great things. And then at the end, it says, take olive wood and make the form of a dog-faced baboon with a winged helmet on of Hermes, and having a box on its back. And inside the box, put this scroll that has the spell and these special names on it written in Muric. So that was that. When you opened it up, that's what that was. That was a little scroll that goes with it.
Right.
But I originally started hand carving a 3D statue of this, like, 4 years ago. But I'm not really a wood carver, and it was just a lot of effort, and I just didn't finish it. So I was thinking about ways to make it a little more simple. And then I started looking for olive jewelry boxes. So it seemed like that would be a good way to go about it. And then I tested it and it worked. So much
Yeah.
easier than carving a three-dimensional statue, which is also available out there. I'm not the only person who does this. Jason Augustus Newcomb, who I believe you know,
Hmm.
also has an Etsy store where he sells PGM items, and I'm a customer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he does good work too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually from PGM 8, 1 through 63.
Thanks so much for keeping me honest.
Well, I just had the card on hand, so I was like, all
Right,
right, I'll
right.
help you out here.
I should have written it down earlier. I
That's
should have
okay,
notes.
but I can speak to the efficacy of boxes. I actually have a box I created years and years ago for space-time magic work that I use, and it's and I will put stuff in that box and then work with it. So I mean, I definitely think. In fact, hey, okay, after we finish our interview, I need to talk to you about something. Maybe you
Yeah,
can help me with
definitely.
something. All right, so um, with this, I had a couple questions. I have it here. I've got the scroll and it looks really beautiful. If I were to get a piece of papyrus and make the myrrh ink,
Mhm.
could I then replicate this and create like multiple scrolls that I could put in here? Or should it just be or should there only be one scroll at a time?
I actually haven't tried the multiple scrolls, but what I did with my scroll is I just made it very vague. So it was grant favor and elegance and business and prosperity to me and all my works. So it's just, I felt like that encompassed everything that I could possibly do in the future. So I wouldn't have to be more specific. Um, now, I do believe that if you wrote another scroll and you performed that spell, that it would definitely work again in different ways. And there's also been some interesting data coming out from Rufus Opus, who also he was one of the testers for this box, and he said that he was kind of using it like a little mailbox to write almost like letters and put them in there, little letter petitions, and have them work. So I thought that was a really fascinating use of it, but I
Mm-hmm.
haven't personally explored that myself. So it's one of those things where this is still new enough and not a lot of people have it that we're still kind of finding out how it works. We know it
Well,
works, but we're still figuring out other ways that it can work.
Well, you know me, I'll be experimenting with it, and I'm
Yes,
sure that my magical partner will be as well. I mean, we'll probably come up with some interesting ideas, so we'll definitely keep you in the loop on that.
I do
Uh,
appreciate your feedback all the time.
yeah.
Oh, and I did want to point out that this particular item is not, uh, it doesn't have a spirit in it. So
Hmm.
that was something that uh, surprised me actually when I first made it, because reading the spell, I thought it was going to be a spell that makes an animated statue, but it turns out it was not. And I confirmed that after I did it, and then talked to spirits about it. So it's like a blessing box. Um,
That makes sense, though. I mean, I kind of my feeling with it, and I haven't. I mean, I literally only got it a day or so ago, so I haven't really like touched it or anything. I've just kind of wanted to just kind of let it be for a few moments, but like later today, I'm gonna start working with it more. um, I just kind of, it was just interesting to kind of feel the energy coming off of it, just feeling this sense of just power radiating. So, I mean, there's definitely something efficacious about it, and I'm really looking forward to working with it. And I'm definitely going to be experimenting with some ideas around it, because I think that you're onto some solid work as always. No surprise there. So what's coming up down the pipeline? Can you share anything with us? Or I know you're pretty secretive about your projects, but is there can you give us any hints? If not, that's okay. But
sure.
you
I
just
mean,
always do amazing work.
yeah. Well, I know that this isn't going to air for another month or so, and some of these products are actually going to be out by then. But right now, the next product that I have coming out is going to be the bracelet of Mercury.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be buying that.
Yeah, so that one actually has 6 pentacles on it. And it's what I wear when I write or when I'm doing like research or spell work or things like that.
Okay, you have to put me on your advanced list, okay? I'm sorry to all the other people out there that want to
Of
get.
course.
I think I should get a little privilege here though on this
Definitely,
one.
definitely.
Yeah, I would really, because I already know I want to pick that up. So already
Yeah,
consider me like an advanced customer right now, because I will totally work with that. That would be, as speaking as a writer and everything else. Yeah, I'm very interested. So count me in.
definitely, definitely. But yeah, I mean that it's, and I knew this would happen as soon as I came out with the Mars bracelet. Everyone was like, "I want bracelets for all the planets," and I was like, "Woo, okay, I do too, but let's chill because product development takes time."
It really does. I don't think
Yeah,
that people realize it's similar to writing a book.
yeah,
It takes time. I mean, I've had people comment on the number of books that I put out in recent years, and what they don't realize is that it's a result of over 20, 25, 30 years of practice. It's
yeah.
like those books didn't come out of nowhere. It's all those years of practice where it just kind of got to a saturation point, and it was like boom, 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 boom. And now I've been slowing down a bit, and some of that's been just life circumstances, but some of it also is kind of like, as well, I'm taking my time and going back in and doing more work, and of course also working with somebody else. That brings its own equation into the matter,
Mhm.
and it's a good thing. But yeah, it does take time. Product development of any type takes time.
Yeah, and I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to, have a life. I'm trying to write.
Fancy.
I'm trying to teach the occasional class.
And you're
So
having to fend off the attacks from middle-aged white magicians who feel threatened by you. White
yeah.
male
Well,
magicians.
I mean, this most recent barrage of criticism. I'm mostly not even fighting it off. I'm mostly just going about my business and mailing my orders out. But there
Now
has
you've been
been
a queen.
there's been such an amazing community response to this, with my customers and other magicians, and just so many people just coming out to support me, and I feel so blessed to just be in such a great community. And regarding the people that are my detractors, I'm not I'm not trying to put them out of business. I'm not trying to say that they're bad at their job, bad at magic, or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I really would just like to see everyone who's some sort of community leader, which, let's face it, if you are a magical business owner or a magical author, you kind of get sidelined into the magical community leader role because everyone's looking for someone to look up to. I just like to see those people be better people. I just like to see them do better for the community, and um, maybe just self-reflect when everyone is criticizing your behavior. Maybe when everyone on all sides is criticizing your behavior, that's the time to like have a little introspection and you know see if you need to change something.
I'll say this. I'm not I don't know either of them very well, and I'm not. And yes, I've made a criticism of them, but I'm going to be. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes. We're all human beings. We're all very fallible. I mean, speaking for myself, I'm a very fallible person. I've definitely put my foot in my mouth a number of times and done stupid things, and so it happens. And so I mean, that time for self-reflection is a good thing. I think, it's better to do that, and also just to remember, like, what you think in your head, you're in control of, but once you write it down, once you say it, you don't have control of it at that point, and how people respond to it. I mean, I may end up getting some flack for this interview because I dared to critique them, and fair enough. I don't care about that. That's fine. I mean, I've certainly gotten enough flack in my life over other things that I've done. So big deal. That's my choice, and you were okay with it. I mean, I cleared it with you ahead of time if we were going to go that angle. But I you've handled it like a queen. You're just an amazing person. You've handled it with such dignity and grace, and really they could take a leaf from your book.
Thank you so much. I did end up writing an article about how to handle conflict in the online community as a result of this. Um, and one of the things that I did say in that is the people that we see online, that's really just an aspect of the person, like we never really know what's happening that we don't see. So we might see people being very defensive or angry or just reacting disproportionately in some way, but we never really know what's going on in their lives. So we're in year 2 of a pandemic. um, I don't think that I know anyone who hasn't lost someone at all. Like, everyone I know has lost someone.
Yeah.
So it's been a time of exceptional strife and grief. So
And stress. I mean, it's not even
yeah.
just that, it's the personal effect. I mean, I can tell you that going through this pandemic has affected me in a lot of ways. I recently dialed back my online presence because I realized I'm sharing way too much. And I used to never do that. I used to be a lot more in control. And I started looking through Facebook has these memory features, and I'd look through and I'm like, yeah, I wasn't this candid before. And I'm like, what happened? And I realized it was just it was the stress of things. It was feeling so alone, and then going through some very stressful situations. And it's like, oh wow. So I've really dialed it back recently in the last few months, and I think it's been healthy for me. But I don't think that people fully can recognize just how being in a very stressful situation such as
Yeah,
that
definitely.
can.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I've started going to see a therapist over the pandemic, and it's really been helping me. I definitely recommend it. I didn't realize how much I lean on my in-person support network until we were all self-isolating elsewhere, and I wasn't seeing them. So
Exactly. I mean, that was one of the big things for me. It's like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden these people are gone, and I hadn't realized just how much I needed them. And then on top of it all, I moved to a new city, no less.
right,
Hey, that's a brilliant idea during a pandemic. And so I've kind of realized that too. It's like, well, now I'm starting all over and starting to try and connect with people, and of course, that's been its own interesting challenges. So it is true. So I think it's important to remember that we don't fully know the circumstances for any one person. And so in regards to the aforementioned individuals, hey, yes, I'm calling out certain things that I see, but at the same time, I don't know what the circumstances are in their
right,
lives. And so, I'll call out what I'm observing, but at the same time, I'll give them a bit of grace there. I mean, we've all been going
right.
through very stressful times, and we need to show some understanding, but you've done that. You've handled it with such grace and dignity, and my respect for you has just increased tenfold. If it wasn't already, I already had a ton of respect for you, but it just went.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's I'm, as you probably know, I'm a Scorpio sun, so it's hard for me to stay out of the fray sometimes. And I'll get riled up, and I'll be like, channel it towards my work, channel it towards my writing, go
I'm a
for a walk.
Scorpio Mars, so I get it.
Right.
Yeah, it can be, or as my friend pointed out to me recently, one of my astrologer friends, he's like, you're a violated Libra because of the Scorpio Mars. And I'm like, oh, great. Just what I want to hear. That's just so wonderful to hear about myself. Well, I am looking forward to that Mercury thing. And for people who are watching this, I actually in the actual blog post that I have this video to, or I have this video attached to, which I've included a link below, I also have pictures of the different items. So you'll be able to see those pictures. And, they're pictures from my thing. And then I'm going to have links to the products as well there. Obviously, we can't link them in the video. And so when you look in the show notes, if you're curious, click on that link. You'll see the video again, but then you'll also see the pictures and the actual products that I have anyway. And so you'll be able to go and check those out. I really do recommend Alison's work. Any final thing you want to say to us, Alison?
No, just always glad to speak to you. And I also appreciate your efforts to support the community. It's very noted.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And all right, well, that's the end of our show. And we will have Alison back at some point. I have no doubt about that. And in the meantime, look forward to more great interviews coming up soon.